Welcome to episode 17 of I Guess We'll Do It That Way. Guys, this one's another two-parter, and it frankly makes me just a teensy bit nervous because I probably should not be releasing it. You'll see why. But here I am, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Come back Tuesday for part 2. I Guess We'll Do It That Way is presented by Mama Bear Studios. Mama Bear's mission is to create entertaining works of art that explore our humanity. Okay, here's episode 17.
We got Zay on the track.
Here's Zay.
I've been listening to so many SoundCloud rappers, dude.
When did you get into that?
Like last night. SoundCloud rapper maybe is too
How many could you have listened to if you just got into it last night? John, you make it sound like you're a seasoned vet at this point.
Well, now that I know everything about mumble rap, I saw like an Instagram video and I was like, ooh, those are some tasty beats.
Is that mumble
So I went
rap?
and listened to I listened to Astro World. This is not SoundCloud rap. That's Travis Scott. You listen to any of this stuff?
No.
Astro World, the videos for Astro World, you got to see them. They are so sick. The little promo videos, I'll send you one. They're nuts.
Sick like
They're so cool. And I thought, like, dude, the aesthetic in these little short Instagram videos that promote the album are so cool that the album has got to be cool. But it's just okay. Anyway, Uncle Zay, what's going on with you, my dude?
Nothing, man. Dude, well, okay, so real quick, today, John, this is going to be a little bit of a special episode. I wish this is the kind of episode that gets me excited about this podcast, and yet, because it's an in progress, it's a scary episode in a way. Because basically, well, no, because the basic theme of this episode is that I need you to talk me out of putting the brakes on this particular version of rollers, the very small version, in order to possibly make a version that could be 7 to 10 times as large in terms of budget.
Oh.
And we'll get into that. I want to just sort of catch up because it's been a second since we've talked, but like that's what gets me excited about this podcast. The unfortunate reality is I don't think we can publish this episode like tomorrow because there are some very important key stakeholders in this project who have not yet sort of been consulted on this, but that's part of the reason I want to talk to you because I need to know if I'm batshit crazy before I go talk to these people.
Absolutely.
All right, just give me a second.
What's your other question?
Really quick, I'm gonna. So that's this episode, and I am committed to releasing it. I just need to have some different conversations first. You know what I mean? And I need to make a decision before I release the episode.
All right. Well, let's start square one.
Well, really quick, I want to tell you something that happened yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe this is square one.
This is kind of unrelated. Have you seen these scooters, these bird scooters?
Bird scooters?
Have you heard of bird scooters? Lime is another company. They're all over LA. I don't know if there are other places. I will certainly link to some videos, some pictures. I've
heard of this. They're in Austin, Texas, too.
Yeah. So a lot of people are like, it's the wave of the future. They're these scooters. They look like giant razor scooters. And they are so fast. They go 15 miles an hour, John.
That's pretty fast.
That's as fast as like a golf cart, but you're on a scooter. And the controls are actually kind of difficult to use because my brake kept messing up. And when you're going 15 miles an hour down a sidewalk, you need your brakes to work, you know?
Oh, no. Wait. So you're like in a suit. You're on... Wait.
There are a lot of guys in suits. I was not one of them this particular time.
You have a helmet on, your tie's flapping behind you as you're going like 200 miles. Okay, so no helmet, your hair's getting mussed, your tie's flapping behind you, your pleated pants are breezing behind you, your loafers are standing firm on the scooter.
Flapping in the wind.
You stand up, you hold on to it like a razor, right?
Yeah, just like a razor.
Okay, so you're whipping down the sidewalk. You're you have to.
Okay, so here's the thing. I had a meeting at a place called Soho House in West Hollywood, and it's this beautiful, like, basically Soho House is like some fancy kind of club thing, and like the guy I was having a meeting with was meeting there, and it's actually less expensive than people think. And so, like, if you just need like a pseudo office, it's actually kind of a great spot. But it's hard to get into. You have to like have a member refer you and apply, and they have to decide if you're cool enough and all that kind of shit. It's a little ridiculous, but it is actually a very nice spot. But they have the top 2 floors of this very tall building in West Hollywood up on a hill, and so you can just see all the way to the ocean. You can see every corner of Los Angeles, and the balcony. I'll post a picture, but the balcony is 8-foot high panels of glass with no metal. You know what I mean? Like there's no railings or anything. It's just like big, huge panels of glass. So like you all the way to the floor. So you just feel like you're just standing on like this endless edge of a roof. It's really beautiful. Anyway, I had a meeting there and I was feeling good. I'm on Sunset Boulevard. I'm starting to walk home. I can't walk home because it's like 4 or 5 miles, but I'm like going to walk a little ways. And then I see a scooter and I was like, you know, I hate these things. I hate everyone who rides these things. I want them to go away. But they do look really fun. So I got on one. And it's actually pretty easy. You just download the app, you use Apple Pay, you scan a little QR code, and boom, you're off to the races.
How much does it cost?
I rode mine, spoiler alert, I rode mine for, I think, 2 miles, and it was $3.
Oh, that's sick.
That's really cheap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very, very cheap. And anyway, so I'm kind of getting into it. I'm going real fast. I'm being careful because I hate when people just whiz by me at like 15 miles an hour, you know? So like if I see somebody on the sidewalk and I'm kind of like, man, I kind of wish I was riding on the street, but also I hate when people ride these things on the street, which happens all the time because I'm like, you're not going fast enough, you dum-dum, and you don't have a helmet on. And apparently, like, the injuries have been gnarly. You know, people are getting crazy road rash. They're getting hit by cars.
The guy who invented the Segway died on the damn Segway.
That's absolutely insane. You're kidding, right?
No. He fell off a cliff on his Segway at his house.
Unbelievable. Wow. So, anyway, so I'm riding my Lime scooter. And, you know, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm whipping through Sunset Boulevard. I'm, like, got a view of L.A. I'm like, this is kind of the life, you know? Like, it was
Dude, what kind of looks
degrees.
are you getting, though? What kind of looks are you getting?
Oh, a lot of death stares. And, and a lot of times I would be, like, have to slow down to, like, weave between people and, like, walk it. And it was a little bit of an annoying thing. I was like, I wish there was, like, a bike lane and I could just ride it in that.
Are you listening to music or are you on, like, a conference call?
No, I was just riding. I was just taking it in, just processing some conversations, you know? And, anyway, but I'm pretty careful because I'm a little sensitive to this. Anyway, this one lady, I'm starting to finally kind of get the hang of it. I'm really in the groove. I'm like, you know, this is kind of not the worst way to commute for like a mile. You know what I mean? Like maybe I could just get one and take it down to Hollywood. You know, I wouldn't like go far, but like instead of riding the bus 2 stops, maybe I should just grab one of these next time. And as I'm thinking that, I come up behind this lady. I'm going like 1 mile an hour, waiting to pass her. Mm-hmm. And she looks to her left. She sees me, and she jumps about 16 feet in the air and immediately starts crying.
What?
And I was like, I stopped, and she like jumped into like a doorway and was like,
nuh-uh,
overwhelmed. Yes.
Well,
and I was
hold
like,
up. Wait, somebody might not know this. How tall are you?
6'3".
You're 6'3", and you're how far off the ground? Like 4 inches?
Yeah.
So you're pretty big. You're like 6'6", 6'7".
Well, so I thought I just spooked her. Yeah, I thought I just spooked her. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, are you okay? I was like,
okay,
I know these suck. I was already going really slow. It's not like I slammed on my brakes right behind you. Like I was being very quiet, and I just happened to be up behind you. She was crying, and she's like, no, it's okay. She's like, I got hit by one of these like a month ago. I had to go to the hospital. They were going 15 miles an hour. They just completely slammed into me, and I just got freaked. Yeah. She was like, and she's like, and by the way, like it is illegal to ride them on the sidewalk. You have to be in the road. And I was like, oh man, like, I really feel bad for you because that's some bullshit. If somebody runs into you at 15 miles an hour, that sucks. And clearly, like, she wasn't being mean. She was just actually like triggered.
She had like post-traumatic stress disorder.
Exactly. Like I felt really bad because I straight up triggered her very accidentally, but like she was traumatized and she seems to know what she's talking about, and I believe her because you're right. You shouldn't be able to ride these freaking things on the sidewalk. And I rode on the street for about 100 yards, and I was like, this is dumb. Like, I'm not riding this shit on the street.
No.
And I just parked it, and I took the bus home.
Ooh. Yeah, that went south quick. What kind of man?
They get
People are so
shredded
dumb.
too. It's hilarious. Like over on the beach, like in Venice and Santa Monica, I was on a run over there recently, and there's whole Instagram channels devoted to them. But these things just get snapped in half. They get thrown in the trash can. They get buried under sand. It's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I've taken city bikes before. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, that is fun. But it's still it's like you gotta wear a helmet, you know.
I mean, if you're in we were in Nolans, and it was actually kind of sick because me and my life partner each took a kid. We have 2 kids. I took one, and we were riding like hoopties, like little gangsters down the street in New Orleans.
That is pretty fun.
It was so cool because people are barbecuing out in the street.
Yeah, if it's a chill street, that's totally different.
Yeah, it was it was kind of the hood, but like friendly hood. Everyone's waving at us and like, yo, what's up? Cooking
awesome.
barbecue.
Those are the best
nasty.
kinds of hoods.
I got a video of it. I'll send it to you.
Send it. Sweet. All right, well, we should get into this heated debate, which who knows how long it could take. We might end up having to split it in 2. I don't know, because, John, I'm not going down easy, baby, because I woke up with a feeling in my gut the other day that maybe I'm selling myself short. And I am not the kind of person who normally says that or thinks it or acts on it. I'm normally the kind of person who's like, I bet on other people. That's everything I've ever done has kind of been like, yeah, I might have an idea, but I'm gonna bet on someone else. Like I hire people who I think are better than me. And I'm not saying this in like a falsely humble way. I'm just saying like I do, if I'm honest, struggle with a lot of self-doubt. And I think that's probably very apparent at this point in the podcast. But like I don't sit around thinking about how I might actually be able to make a really great movie. I tend to sit around thinking about how maybe I could actually make a better movie than I think I could if I could just get over myself a little bit. And so, you know what I mean? So like, it's hard for me to sit down and think like, oh, let me give up this actual concrete start date, which is rapidly approaching and would be so much fun. Because I still think that the small version of the movie would be an absolute blast, but there are certain limitations, which we can get into as you sort of try to convince me that I'm nuts. But like,
don't assume my position here, my dude.
Well, I'm just saying
I gotta weigh the facts first.
I know, but I need you to litigate me. Basically, I need you to like.
I can do that.
I need you to like convince me that I'm wrong because I don't really even want to make the bigger version of the movie that much because the truth is I like things done more than I like them perfect, and I like the idea of getting this movie in the can and moving on with my life. But I woke up with a feeling and I was like, I might not be giving this movie the platform that it might need to be as successful as it maybe could be,
Okay, so...
And I've been having conversations with people about that, you now being one of those people.
Right,
let it
here we are. So you have a budget that's more or less set in stone, and you've been planning around this budget.
Mm-hmm. And it's a very small budget, but it is... Okay. But I have the money.
It's $87 in a lottery ticket.
The lottery ticket is what I'm banking on. It could either...
It's a scratch off you haven't scratched off yet.
A big movie or a small movie.
To put
it in perspective, though, now that you mention that, it's funny, I hadn't thought of that. I am considering what would effectively amount to me winning, not the mega lottery, but like...
Sure.
I mean, I'm talking a couple $1 million, I'm talking about like... It's a lot of money.
Whoa,
that would be like.
How are you talking about that? What do you mean? From what source?
That would be the budget size that I would be jumping to.
Oh, I see.
I'm talking like a major factorial increase,
Gotcha, okay.
Is that the proper use of factorial? I don't know why I even said that. I'm not a geometrist.
Look it up after and edit it out to make you sound smarter.
What's geometrist? Where did that come from? That's not even a thing.
Geometrist?
This isn't boding well.
This is so it sounds like this is kind of a funny position because you're like, I think this is so good that it deserves a bigger treatment. Is that what you're telling me?
That's basically what I'm saying, but I'm not positive that is the case. I think, to give you a little context, some of that is based on a little bit of like what could be an imaginary narrative that I've created, or it could be a real narrative that I've created. I'm still figuring out which is based in the fact that like people who have better things to do seem very excited about this movie. and seem
Right.
like they want to help me and they want to put their own social capital at risk, their own financial capital at risk, and simultaneously the vision that is getting all of us excited, there are certain things that we would have to eliminate at this budget level. And I'm deciding basically like, do I think this is good enough to justify more time, more money, more risk in order to potentially have a much larger release, a much larger platform for everyone involved, et cetera, et cetera.
So this just means that my shot of playing the lead role has gone to zero. You're going to get like Chris Hemsworth in there, Hemsworth or whoever in there, Chris Pine.
I would
some handsome
say
devil.
it's gone from 3.5% to 0.01%.
Oh.
It's not 0%. It's just
So
0.01%.
you're saying I've got a chance.
Exactly. You know the best line of Dumb and Dumber?
Tell me.
It's around that time when Harry like rips open his shirt and he's like, I got this bulletproof vest on. And then Lloyd's like, what if he shot you in the face?
Ooh.
And then the FBI lady's just like, well, Harry, that was a risk we're willing to take. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I don't know. This is a weird thing because part of me is like, budget is, of course, it's a real constraint, but
Right.
it isn't, in the sense
Right.
that if you're really dedicated to making something, you make it, if you're a kid with nothing, you go and get buckets and you make a drum set. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You make it work and you can be amazing.
Right.
If you're amazing, it will definitely come through, right? So there's
That
that
is true.
element. There's that element.
Can I
And
address
there's
that or should I wait?
Here the second,
Okay.
and then
Yeah.
address it because I think it's on maybe more your side. Yes, you have that kid that can make the bucket, and you can see that talent through that, right? Obviously, but what happens as soon as that talent is recognized? You get the kid an amazing drum set.
Yeah, you don't make him keep playing buckets for the rest of his life.
Yeah, unless that's like his shtick. Or
And you
whatever.
get him a
But
good drum teacher. And
you get him
you
teachers. You use that money to make the best possible product you can later, right?
yes.
So
I have an analogy for that. I have an analogy for that I thought
Yeah,
of.
so that's
Can
what I
give
was
it
going
you?
to say.
Yeah.
I think if there is a vision that's like, this can only be made for X amount of money, then maybe that's what has to happen. But I also could see this being not a crutch, but money can definitely make something. I'm going to put this as harsh as possible.
Please.
A lot of money could make something mediocre seem less mediocre.
That is
You know what I
very
mean? So
true.
you
But
could put
it
lipstick
could
on a pig with
also
$1 million extra bucks.
that is very true. And that's what I'm debating because I'm waiting. I'm looking actively for someone to tell me that I'm polishing a turd.
Right.
And so far everybody's like, "Yeah, I'm totally in for this tiny version, but dude, like I really
Let's
see
make
what's
this
in your
turd
head
bigger."
and yeah, let's make the turd." No, but they're like, "I see what's in your head and I totally see a path to this tiny version, but it's not quite what's in your head. And I'm excited about what's in your head, not the compromised version,
Do the people telling you this, and I'm not asking this in a derogatory
please,
way.
nothing
I
is
have
gonna
not
feel
read
derogatory
this.
at this point.
I
Yeah.
have not read this.
I
I
know.
don't have an opinion. So, but do the people that are telling you this have, for instance, a current or potential financial stake in this?
Yes.
That seems like a problem, right?
Well, what do you mean specifically by that?
Well, let's say I am little Johnny Bear producer, right? And I and
So you're saying, are they betting on the upside because they're
they get a gain
okay
from it.
Yeah. No, that's a very good question, and it has come up, and I think the answer is yes, but basically yes. Most of them do not have cash invested in it, but they do stand to make a tiny bit more money
Right.
if we make it bigger. That
Right.
said, the project will also be more of a pain, and they're still not going to get paid their rate. That's the thing. Even if we scale up the project, hopefully a huge percentage of that money is going to end up on the screen and not just sort of in the bloated budget. You know what I mean?
Right,
and
right,
so
right.
no one that I'm talking to has that much of an interest in making it bigger, because it just means that like there's going to be a lot more stopping and starting and waiting. But you're right. I mean, that's a very reasonable question, and I think that's part of the reason I'm trying to ask people who don't have
it's something to think about, because
interest in it.
If you have the architect who's designing a house, yeah, he's going to get more money if he adds some like cool feature to the house, but he's also adding a cool feature, so there is perhaps a dual things going on.
And speaking of the house, I mean, the one way of thinking about this is I very regularly had the thought like, man, it would really suck if I kind of manage against all odds to make a movie that's actually pretty good and no one sees it.
Right.
That would suck. And the truth is that at this budget level, no matter how good it is, there is a limited number of people who will see it, because movies like this, it's not a horror movie. Like movies like this.
I was just about to say, have you seen the Blair Witch Project, bro? They made that for like $45 and a pack of Mentos.
Exactly, but see, horror movies have a completely different path to market. There's a different movies like this don't get they get sold and they do get distributed, and it's happened to us 3 or 4 times, depending on like 4 times. But it's okay. Let's put it. Here's another analogy. Okay, let's say I am a songwriter or a musician. Okay,
Lil Bump,
and I have I'm Lil Bump, right? And I've got
Lil Bump.
I've got like 13 just fire demo tracks, like absolutely fire tracks. And everyone who's involved is like, dude, these are kind of sick. And like, I see a lot of work, and I often am like looking for this, and I don't often find it, and I want to be involved.
Yeah.
Now, Lil Bump now has a couple options, right? Lil Bump can take like 10 grand and pop into the studio and just self-produce the thing and put it out online, right? And he may get kind of famous.
That happens.
It happens all the time, right?
It happens a lot right now.
But you know what that means is that it means his next album, he's going to call up Kanye, and Kanye is going to be like, cool, dude, I might produce your second album or your third. And that's freaking dope, right? That's like best case scenario. That's dope. And it's hard to do, and it's admirable, and it has value, and Lil Bump probably did the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But what if Lil Bump has been around for a minute, and Lil Bump has some good connections, and Lil Bump has been producing other people's music for a while, and Lil Bump has a way to get to someone like Kanye, not necessarily Kanye, but like Rick Rubin or somebody, and hasn't even asked those people what they think of those songs.
Right.
And what if Rick Rubin or Kanye or Drake or whoever listens to the demo tracks and he's like, dang, dude, these are sick and they could be even better. Let me help you. And then they produce his first album. That's a completely different situation.
Yeah.
But it's hard because it's like, how long do you spend? Because here's what I'm not doing. Let me set a little more context. I'm not committing to only making a bigger version. What I'm really doing is saying I'm at a go or no go point where if I'm going to make this movie in February, I have to either commit to that 100% right now, because I'm starting to get to the point where I'm paying deposits. I'm getting people to block out their busy schedules for me. It's getting real. You know what I mean? It's like at a certain point, once you're like planning a wedding, you better decide if you actually want to get married, because you're about to start dropping money. And if you cancel the venue 2 weeks before...
That's why you need to decide, because of the $400 deposit for the florist.
No. It's more like I need to decide right now if I'm going to give up February, because if I give up February, it's not that I can't then in February be like, I tried, it didn't work out, now I'm going to make the tiny version again. I can still go backwards and do that. You know what I'm saying? I can still go backwards and do that. But it's going to be slower, and I could have the movie in the can by the time I even realize that I need to go backwards and make the smaller version. And so that's the main risk. It's not that I just will give up and not make the movie, because I think that was sort of laced into your original question, which was like, if it's actually good, why not just make it? And I will probably at some point just make it. But I'm like, do I take some time to see how big I can go?
Well, here's the next question is if I'm you, and I'm not you, we're very different, but if I am you in this exact situation, when I'm calling up Bob Thompson, the producer, and I'm telling him, like, hey, we're a go, or if right before I'm about to make that phone call, I am petrified. I'm nervous. Like, is this good? Am I doing the right thing? Can I trust these people?
Right.
Am I crazy? Is this going to suck? I've asked people for money to make something that I wrote that I've showed it to some people, but I don't know if I can actually trust them, if their opinion is good or not. Who knows? And can I actually execute it? Right. I don't know. Maybe I should wait a few months. That's what I would do. And I'm not sure if you're doing that. It doesn't sound exactly like that.
What do you mean wait a few months?
I would stall, basically. Because I would be nervous. Like, I would be afraid of putting out an imperfect product, and I would stall forever. You know, that would be my inclination. And
see, that's what I'm
happening?
trying to... no. See, what I'm trying to do is either, honestly, in the next week, I'm kind of setting a deadline for myself. I'm trying to vet out these opportunities, and I'm trying to decide, at the end of this week, I am committing to either... no questions asked, no looking back, no regrets, making the tiny version in February, period.
Well, what's the...
Or putting the brakes on and trying to take a bigger swing for a period of, let's say, 6 months.
Yeah, so that's the next question is, you mentioned the bigger budget. What's the... So now you have two gambles, maybe more, right? You're saying, I will definitely be able to make this in the future, which I don't necessarily think is a certainty.
No, it isn't. I'm just saying I would be committed
budget,
to trying to make it in the future. I'm not just going to be like, I can only make it one way.
But I guess another way to put it is you're trading a sure thing.
Yes.
Like, you can make this right now for this amount of money, definitely.
Yep.
For maybe I'll be able to make it in the future, either
which
for
is
a
why,
lot of money or at all.
Which is precisely why I need you to talk me out of it. You know?
Well, you know, the other thing is... this is a problem with film in general, and I don't want to get sidetracked with this, but I thought all day about this yesterday, and I think it's germane to the point here. So, when you have a feeling, let's say you just broke up with your girlfriend, you are feeling that feeling right now, you're devastated, you're crying, you pick up the guitar, you write a song, and 25 minutes later, you have like a rough version of a raw feeling, right? When you make a movie, it is so much scheduling and so much time waiting, sitting around, planning. How do you distill those original feelings into that moment? I mean, it seems like it would be so difficult. It's such a hard medium.
There's no spontaneity whatsoever.
Exactly. So you in a few months, man, might go back and read Rollers and just yourself think, whoa, I don't feel like this anymore. I don't really resonate with this anymore.
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No. It's fine. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. But if I have had that experience with various things in my life, you know, where I look back at something I did as a kid or whatever, or even something I said or wrote to somebody or anything a few months ago, I'm like, dude, what? I don't feel like that anymore.
Right.
If you postpone this, is another idea going to come up? Is something else going to get in the way? And a year, 2, 3 years from now, this thing is gone, never happened, and it could have and maybe should have happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm parsing through. I mean, parsing out, whatever, however you say that. But basically, yeah, I mean, that's part of what's... I will say part of what spurred this is that the more I've done the legwork, the due diligence of putting this movie together, you know, the more I've everything ranging from spending dozens of hours, and I'm not exaggerating. I mean, I think actually this is one of those things I don't think, and I don't say this at all in like an arrogant way, I just don't think people realize just how much time goes into every single aspect of a movie, because I've spent literally dozens of hours just listening to music to come up with a list of people, like to type up detailed notes of the entire script to give to my music supervisor to be like, this is the music cue that I see at this moment. This is why. Here are 3 bands that kind of exemplify that. I'm not sure if we can, like, throughout the whole movie. And like researching bands I've never heard of. Like, I've spent dozens of hours just on that one tiny piece of it, and that's just the preliminary research just to get to the point where I can communicate the vision to the music supervisor, which will then actually begin the real process of putting things together. And the same is true of the movies I've been watching to develop a visual aesthetic that I can be excited about, that I can then communicate to the DP, that we can then develop together further. The same is true of that. Dozens of hours. And the same, hundreds of hours combing over the script, literally line by line, and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting for the last year. And through that due diligence, you know, sitting in my living room and reading a scene and literally just laying on the couch and trying to like visualize it as if it was a finished movie and like writing notes about what it would look like. Hundreds of hours devoted to this process has only made me like the movie more.
Right.
And that I cannot say for much that I've worked on. And again, that doesn't mean that it's going to be good, but the same process has been true with all of my key stakeholders, all of my department heads that have so far gotten involved. Like, the music supervisor, my DP Greta, like other people are like, yeah, dude, the more we dive into this, the more I actually think maybe we have something a little special here. And again, I have to decide if that's them saying that because they want to try some crazy stuff and whatever, or if when I have a conversation with Greta or whoever, and she basically says, I know what's in your head. What's in your head gets me very, very, very excited. But I can tell you that the limitations that you're imposing on me as a producer right now do not result in exactly what's in your head. And I can point to specific reasons why, and I can tell you where it's going to fall short. And like, when I start having that conversation with basically everyone involved, where it's like, yeah, dude, I know that music isn't expensive, but it's too expensive for you. We have to go with this category. And I'm like, well, what if I don't see anything in that category that I like? Can I make a decent movie? Yeah, I totally can. But can I make a movie that's going to transcend and actually be truly special? I'm not sure. And the truth is, I don't need to make a movie bad enough right now in my life, because I have other people's movies that I could spend this time making while I'm trying to put the bigger movie together. I have other people who I get just as excited about. And I'm like, if I'm not going to actually believe in this thing, why would I spend the next year and a half making it? And it's not that I don't think the small version could be good. I just need to know that the small version is the version I should make, because then I can feel good about it. But right now, there's this nagging feeling that I might fall short, not because I like needed all the resources in the world, because even if I make this movie for $2 million, it's still going to be a very small movie in the grand scheme of things. Right. But could I make something truly special? You know, I don't know, but I would kind of be a little bummed to assume that I can't, and then make something that's really special for the budget, but ultimately doesn't have what it takes, doesn't have the rocket fuel in it necessary to like actually get out of orbit, you know?
Yeah.
And can I just, well, yeah, go ahead. I actually have like a really fun list of things, but you should go ahead.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to forget. Oh, no. So you already were planning to make the movie for X budget, whatever you have right now.
Yeah.
And you, at least at some point, you thought it's definitely possible to make a good movie for this amount of money.
And it still is.
It still is possible, but you're saying it's not likely to be seen. Is that because of the lack of a marketing budget?
So, yeah, the basic path there is there are two ways that tiny movies, and I'm not talking about I'm talking like getting seen by, like the kind of thing, John, where you would hear about it maybe.
Right.
Just because you're a person living in America.
If I didn't
maybe
know
you wouldn't see it, but like you might hear about it.
Right.
And so far, we frankly have not made a movie that has had that kind of marketing push behind it. Even Never Going Back, which was by far the biggest release we've had yet, was still only in maybe 50 cities, and if that, and like you just don't put that much money. And that had like pretty famous people in it, and it's a really, really funny movie.
There's too much smut. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a callback.
And again, no regrets. Like, it set Augustine's career on track. It was a great movie that I'm very proud of. But the reality is that it had a limited release, and that's fine. And I could maybe do that. But there are two ways that tiny movies actually are breakouts and like make real money.
How did Never Going Back do financially, just out of curiosity?
It did fine. I mean, like, we're going to make money.
That's good.
It's hard to say exactly how much, but like, and a lot of the money that a lot of the profit that we may or may not make is going to depend on how well it does in sort of video on demand and pay-per-view, like on iTunes and stuff like that. And we just haven't done that release yet. So it's hard to say, but like, we made money already. It was financially successful, but it wasn't financially successful enough to make everybody whole in the sense of the amount of time that they put into it. Like, the actual cash that was put into it has more than been recouped, but no one really took salaries. No one was really getting paid, and no one's really going to make a lot of money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Totally.
We didn't set out to make money. We set out to make a movie. But now I'm asking myself, should I aim higher? Should I? Because there are two kinds of movies that really, quote unquote, break out, right? In that tiny, tiny budget category. One, I'm not going to limit it exclusively to horror, but basically movies like Blair Witch Project, Paranormal Activity, and there are a lot of reasons for that.
Yeah.
Mainly, though, that movies like that don't rely on, even when they're made with a lot of money, don't really rely on famous stars, and they don't really rely on big music cues, which are very, very expensive, and they don't really rely on fancy cinematography. You know what I mean? Like, they are very simple movies by nature, but they don't feel any different than the movies that were made with 100 times the budget, because the reality is, which is crazy, but Paranormal Activity was originally produced for like $25,000. So if you make a $2.5 million horror movie, which is still really small, that's 100 times $25,000, right? So that's crazy. But like, the point is, those movies, if you are operating within a certain sort of aesthetic framework, it doesn't matter how much money it was made for. People watch those movies indiscriminate of like sort of how big they feel. Does that make sense?
Do people remake movies that they like? Does somebody shoot their very first movie on like a $80,000 budget, and then it's so great that they remake the movie with slightly famous people for like $5 million?
Yeah, but like, I don't think I would do that. I have other movies I'd want to make, and part of what I'm examining is this path of like, all right, let's say I somehow nail it and make a really, really, really good movie for under $500,000. The best case scenario there is that I then get to make a movie for a couple $1 million next time. And so there is part of me that's like, well, I really like this idea, and if all this idea really is a stepping stone, maybe I should take my time. Instead of burning the idea and then hoping I come up with a good sophomore album. You know what I mean? Because that's where a lot of people fail in movies and in music. Like, they put everything they've got on the table on their first album, and then sometimes their second one kind of disappoints a little bit, because they're all of a sudden like on the clock. They got to come up with a new one right away. They worked on the first one for 5 years, and now they've got to do the next one in 9 months. And it's like, I don't know. Like, I think I have some really, really good follow-up ideas that I could put into action very quickly, but also I kind of don't want to just have to like race into the next project, And so that's part of what I'm thinking about. Part of what I'm thinking about is it has crossed my mind, like, all right, cool. If the issue is that I need bigger talent, why not just double the budget and spend the entire second half on talent, right? Because my casting director, for instance, was like, hey, these are really, really good roles that I think people would really like to play. But to be totally honest, there are a few reasons why people do movies like this. One is because you're a famous director that they want to work with, and so they do it for free. Right. You're not a famous director. And we've done movies with people who are like that, like David Lowery, who did like Pete's Dragon, and he did Old Man and the Gun with Robert Redford. I've talked about him before. They were the people we produced Never Going Back with. And they made a movie called A Ghost Story. A Ghost Story was made with pennies, but, I mean, not literally. It would be a lot of pennies, but it was very, very, very small. But they sold it to A24. It got a real, like, bigger release. It did a couple $1 million at the box office. Like, it was like a very successful release.
Yeah.
But that was because they had Casey Affleck in it and Rooney Mara, the year Casey Affleck won Best Actor. And the reason Casey Affleck did that and the reason Rooney Mara did that movie is because they're friends with David Lowery and because they had already done a movie with him because they were already friends with him. And that's why it did that kind of business. It's because it was really good, but it never would have gotten that kind of release had they not been in it. But also, David Lowery doesn't get Casey Affleck in a movie the year he wins Best Actor unless he's David Lowery.
Yeah, it sounds like you need to make some more famous friends, my dude.
Exactly. You know, and I actually have a list that I want to go through at some point because I think you're going to find this interesting of some of my favorite directors and some of which also happens to be some of my favorite movies.
I was about to spoil one and talk about it briefly because earlier I said have people made a movie and then redone it. I guess more commonly they'll make a short film in their early days, like Bottle Rocket is what I was thinking of. It's Wes Anderson's first movie, but before they made that, they made some like short film, right?
Right, Bottle Rocket short film. Yeah,
right. And then they reshot the whole thing, presumably because the short film was so good. So why don't you take the budget, make a short film, and then make a $10 million one later?
Well, okay. So speaking of sort of the bird in hand versus two in the bush type thing, it's crossed my mind. It's crossed my mind that there is probably a short that I could make for very, very little money that would prove the concept.
Right.
I don't think I would go the submit it to festivals route because the truth is, like, let's say I made a short film for Rollers, right? Mm-hmm. Best case scenario, I get into Sundance, right? Mm-hmm. It still doesn't mean I will make the feature version. But best case scenario, let's just dream, right? I get into Sundance. That short film does not premiere at Sundance until spring or January of 2020. Because I can't get into Sundance of 2019, which is coming up in 6 months because the application's already closed 2 weeks ago. And I haven't even made the short. And so that's a really, really, really long time frame. That said, so I don't think I would go that route. But what I do think I could do, because, again, I have spent 3.5, 4 years building relationships with people who, to this point, many of them I haven't even told about Rollers because it's irrelevant to their professional experience because they don't make movies this small. There is a group of people that I could call who make movies at that budget level, and I could pitch it to them. I don't know what they'd say, but I know them, and I have relationships with them, and I have other people involved with the project who also know other people who I don't know, and I can get it in front of them. I just don't know what they're going to say about it. You know what I mean? But there is an actual path, and I think now that I've gone through the paces a little bit, and I'm starting to see the actual limitations, and it's not theoretical anymore, now I feel like I can actually go to those people theoretically and say, I need to make the X million dollar version. I actually need to come up with that number. That's part of what I'm in the process of doing, is speaking with all the people that like would be a part of that and saying, I need to be very specific. If it's not X, what is it? What do you need to help me make this vision a reality, and come up with a real number?
Yeah, I mean, I hear this and I feel it. If it's not an attempt to get out of a fear of actually following through and doing this.
Yeah, if anything, I'm really, really don't want to do this because I'm like so ready to make a movie. I've been waiting for so long, and I really don't want to blow this whole thing up. Right.
But I guess another thing is, if you go back to these people or new people, whatever, and you say, hey, I had money, I was going to start in February. Now I think this is a totally different thing. If I had signed checks or whatever, I would be sitting there like, is this guy for real? Like, he's coming back, now he's trying to change the whole thing. What's going on here? Maybe, is he trying to, like, I don't know what. I mean, are you nervous at all about that?
Yeah, and that's why I want to vet it out. You know, I want to be able to go to those people and say, hey, I kind of get it if you don't want to be a part of this new version. And I need to be confident that if they bail, that I didn't just make a giant mistake.
Right. Can you not go to a bank and say, yo, I got $100 as collateral.
Mm-hmm.
You guys put down a couple mil for the making of the movie. Aren't there banks in Hollywood that do this all the time?
Yeah, but they only do it for two reasons. They do it either against stars and pre-sales. They would not give me like a typical small business loan.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They might do it. They do it for studios. They do it for people that are quote bankable, but like,
right.
Which is where that comes from because there are banks, but I'm not bankable as a director, and the stars that I would be getting, even at this higher level, probably aren't really bankable in that way. Okay. They also do it against tax credits, which is another thing. Is like there are places like Atlanta, there's places like New Orleans, there's places like Vancouver, where I can go and like we talked about in tax credits.
Yeah.
I can de-risk the project by getting a rebate, and I can de-risk the project even further by like getting foreign pre-sales based on talent that's involved. Like there are ways to actually de-risk the project. It just takes longer, and
Sure.
As a first-time director, it's very difficult. Hey, listen, I think people really like their episodes under an hour.
Oh. Bye.
So I think what we should do, again, is we should say bye for now. Bye, everyone, and we should give them a little tune break, and we will come back, and then we'll release part 2 later in the week, because I just think people like that.
Word.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, listen to the last 50 seconds of the song Halftime by Young Thug.
Maybe I'll make it the outro music.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty weird.
Sweet.
All right, bye.
John, when are you going to pursue your real calling as a mumble rapper?
Oh, dude, dad rap. DJ dad rap.
Is dad rap a real thing?
I don't think so, but I'm about to make it one.
All right, keep an eye out for dad rap, new phenomenon, coming your way via SoundCloud.
Bye.
Bye. Ooh. I just thought about rapping the closing credits, but I think I'm going to need some more prep for that. Today's show is produced and edited by me, Isaiah Smallman, executive producer John Schimpf. Opening music is The Get Down by Summer Dregs. Closing music is Halftime by Young Thug. Thank you, Young Thug. This has been a production of Mama Bear Studios. It's your boy.